My mic on? Answer. I've never called a meeting to order. Do I just say I call this meeting to order? Okay, this is weird. Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have about 10 folks attending via Zoom. I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay. Hello? Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to call the meeting to order. In addition to everybody that we have physically in this room, we have about 10 guests tuning in via Zoom. Okay. Yeah, all these things are like that. Okay.
We can try.
While Joe's fixing the screen so it's facing the audience, we're going to start tonight with public comment.
If you are here without a mask, please put on a mask. Thank you. I'm working on it.
Test.
Can folks in the back row hear me okay? Can folks in the back hear what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying? I see a thumbs up from people in the back row. Thank you. I appreciate it. Andrew, how do you want to do? You don't have people like line up if they want to give public comment? Okay.
That's pretty good for now. Make sure everyone can see. It's going to be on a little bit of an angle, but.
Is there a way to make that bigger?
Not much.
Alrighty.
A little bigger than that.
From you. You have the mic. Okay. Alrighty. We're going to begin the evening with public comment. We have a list where folks began signing up. If you would like to offer comment after everybody's listed, you may raise your hand at the end of this and we will call you up as hands are raised. The first, well, we have 2 people listed at one time, but we're gonna have you give public comment separately. Lloyd and Franzel Ellis, doesn't matter who goes first.
Steve? You can hear me? Thumbs up if you can. Okay. So, to restart the process, because we had some internet issues here. When a developer, to go over the community benefits ordinance process, when a developer requests public support, the department shall review the request. Council. When city council receives that request, you can't hear Steve?
Is Zoom picking up the voice to text?
Yeah, no, it's working.
You're breaking
Is Zoom
up.
picking up voice to text as well?
I'm breaking up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apologies, everyone. We have unstable internet connection, but this was the best space to safely get everybody here in person and have a hybrid option.
Once council is informed that an incentive has been requested, then there is a 30-day window where everyone is noticed that lives within 1,000 feet of the area. And we hold the meeting that we're in today. So that's exactly where we're at. At the scope of the request of public support and the information discussed in the ordinance shall be shared with the community.
No, it's picking up, it's just that it's not sharing the right thing.
They're just saying, what are you saying?
No, I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing the agenda.
Better?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, sorry about that, technical difficulties. Once this meeting happens where we discuss the benefits requested and apply to be on the committee, the council shall establish a board of 5 to 8 residents to serve on the community benefits ordinance subcommittee. 3 will be selected from this meeting tonight.
We could just like abandon the hybrid option. And just
Can't do that. It's been noticed.
do- All right, let's just, I'm not gonna keep going back and forth and waiting for it to work.
All right, there you go. Now it's got it. Now you're good.
So, sorry, we're back on. Can everyone at home hear me?
We literally heard you say that 10 times.
Within 15 days of the community participation meeting, council shall establish an ad hoc committee consisting of 5 to 8 residents of the city of Ypsilanti and 1 member of council. 3 of the people will be chosen at this meeting, or up to 3 of them will be chosen for people attending this meeting, and the rest will be chosen by council. The city manager will designate a staff liaison, and the committee will have 60 days to work with the developer to identify mutually beneficial community benefits to then present to council. After 15 days, the council has to notice the meeting for 15 days, and then it will be acted on by council. The community benefits must be legally enforceable, must provide a reflected scale and the proportion of the public support approved, and must identify specific methods of monitoring and compliance with the provisions of the community benefits agreement. It must provide for enforcement terms and specific remedies. The developer must not have any outstanding back taxes, fines, or liens. Compliance with the developer provisions contained in the ordinance shall not have employment discrimination. Any contamination shall be cleaned up on the site as required by Eagle, and compliance with the city's living wage and prevailing wage requirements must be upheld. There are two different tiers of community benefits, tier 1 and tier 2. This is a tier 2 development because the developer is asking for more than $250,000 of incentive. And so tier 1 would be to provide either on-site or off-site recreational activities, parks, open space, public service enhancements, or public infrastructure improvements to the city. This includes public transit services, the incorporation of green and sustainable elements, energy elements in the project, and unbundling of construction work to bid sizes for local small businesses to be able to have competition. Tier 2 would be working with Michigan Works and the SBDC and other organizations to help with the preparation for the potential contractual and hiring opportunities for small and local businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned business enterprises, and other relevant businesses and organizations. That shall be provide or supporting educational and mentoring activities to provide enhanced employment opportunities for local residents and youth through the Ypsilanti Community Schools, Washtenaw Community College, and other educational programs, and the creation or financial support of either on-site or off-site mixed or low-income housing units. Once everything's happened, I kind of said this, council, there will be a 15 days prior to council consideration. The city council has the discretion to approve any community benefit or change one, depending on how it works. And council may also accept, reject, or amend any potential community benefits agreement. So that is the process for community benefits. Now, we're going to have questions after this, but now we're going to go to the developer, who will give a brief presentation on the development.
And the incentive request.
And the incentive request. And hopefully, this. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
In the back?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming out tonight. This presentation is on the project at 220 North Park. We have not named the project yet. We will be doing that through a public process. We are the developer. We are Renovari Development. We are headquartered in the city of Detroit. We are a majority woman-owned social impact real estate development company. Our projects include mixed use, attainable for sale housing, multifamily housing, and commercial projects. We are personally committed to projects like this. It's a little bit about us. It's probably too hard to read. My name is Jill Ferrari. I'm a licensed attorney with 27 years in commercial real estate development. With me is Shannon Morgan, who can tell you a little bit about herself and her experience in housing.
Yes.
No. Yeah.
Oh.
Like Jill, 25 years. My background primarily has been housing. I have completed 20,000 units of housing throughout the country. predominantly here in the city of Detroit throughout the entertainment districts. We specialize in creative capital stacks, as Jill said, with projects like this that serve attainable needs and partnerships with state and local agencies.
The project, which we have titled Renovare Ypsilanti Homes, again, that name will change. Right now, we are proposing to complete somewhere between 40 and 45. We think that's where we're going to come out. The density is going to be driven by site design. For sale, single family homes. The site is publicly owned, as you all know, by the city of Ypsilanti. Our product are all missing middle single family products, which mean they are of a certain size. They will be 2-story homes, 1-story homes, and duplexes that are attached. We've designed this project as a dense walkable community. Our density has decreased since we first visited the city. We're going to talk about that in a second. And we are working closely with the city and state and local government agencies on site design and the affordability of the project. Right now, we are planning to set aside 50% of the units for qualified individuals and families between 40% to 120% of area median income. We're targeting workforce families predominantly in this area. This was our first conceptual site plan that was presented to City Council back in the fall. As you can see, I think this plan had 54 units. The entire site was developed. This was before we had done any engineering analysis on the site. And this is in public record. This is close to where we are today. Obviously, our density has come down. As many of the neighbors noted in the public meetings that we've had, there are a few concerns on the site. One is water. Water collects on the southern end of the site. So we will have a sophisticated stormwater detention system that is being designed right now by MCI in conjunction with OHM, which is the city engineer. So that entire southern portion of the site will act as a stormwater detention system. We will probably come, like I said, somewhere between 40 and 45 units, still with a mix of the 2-story cabins, the duplexes, and a few of the single-story homes. This is the current rendering of the design. This is driven by the historic ordinance. The building materials, the colors are all in alignment with historic requirements. I see people nodding their heads who are probably familiar with the historic ordinance. This was the first blush by our architect. We have to really dig into product design over the next few months, but this is where we're at conceptually. These are our project partners who are all working hard on the project right now. Wolverine is our general contractor, large statewide contractor with significant experience. This is where we're at. We obtained site control from the city last year. We obtained detailed civil engineering estimates from our engineering company, including the management of the stormwater system. We obtained hard costs from our general contractor, developed a conceptual site plan. At this point, as soon as we get our final engineering design from our engineer, we will be ready to submit for planned unit development starting in April. We are hoping that we will be shovel ready with all of our entitlements in place, all of our zoning and use approvals by summer of 2022, sometime in the summer of 2022. This is a high-level snapshot of the sources of funds we will be using for the project and the uses of funds. Absolutely. There is a construction loan, a debt component of approximately 4.8 million. There is a gap component right now, which is 2.5 million, and we are talking to various sources about that gap. There is the Brownfield redevelopment eligible activities piece, the TIF piece, that is roughly 2.2 million. And there is a private equity piece that we are at final terms with at this point for $1 million. On the uses side, we have acquisition of the site for $250,000 to the city of Ypsilanti. Hard costs, which is our construction cost of 7.3, roughly 7.4. Soft costs of 1.2. Site work and infrastructure of 1.3, and a developer fee of 320,000. This is going to be really hard to see. So I wanted to lay out the Brownfield eligible expenses that we are going to be seeking reimbursement for. Some of them are things that you're very familiar with, including those typical Brownfield redevelopment expenses, such as Eagle required activities, costs to prepare Brownfield plans and work plans, reasonable costs of principal and interest on the loan for the TIF eligible expenses that we will be taking, infrastructure improvements that directly benefit the eligible property, that entire stormwater management system, as well as infrastructure upgrades on the site preparation across the site. We have some topographic issues, as many of you know, on the site that need to be dealt with. And then the unique piece of this that you probably haven't seen in other Brownfield projects is the last eligible activity. And it is assistance to a qualified local governmental unit or authority in selling or otherwise conveying property owned by that government agency for economic development purposes. Cities across the state of Michigan are using this eligible activity to create attainable housing.
Can I just add, this is all going to be posted online tomorrow morning. So the small print you'll be able to see online.
I apologize for that. These are, again, hard to read, but these are some of the ways that we hope to meet the community benefits ordinance, understanding that we're going to have to go through a lot of meetings and all of you will come up with a lot of different ideas. That southern piece of the site that will act as stormwater detention, it is our goal to make that an environmental education asset. My background is in environmental science. We see that piece as something that the public will have space in, seating, lighting, and signage that really helps educate the public on why stormwater is important, stormwater management is important, why clean water is important, and the history of this site and how this piece was developed. We see school-age kids, we see community colleges, all kinds of educational programs being offered at that site. We also hope to incorporate some sustainable energy features. We've been talking to the local solar company. We hope to put electric vehicle charging stations in the units. We don't have the final details on those pieces, but we will over the next few months. We also want to work with Michigan Works and organizations to help provide training and development and preparation. So that's a piece that we're, as a woman-owned company, we're really excited about that. So we're really, just eager to hear what your ideas are on how we can do that. So we're hoping to work with the committee on that piece. And that's it. That is the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time tonight.
Should we open up the question specific to the incentive requested now, or just do public comment? For the incentives?
Yeah,
Well, what are we making it up to public, like general public comment? Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to questions specific to the developers who are here related to the proposal and the requested incentive. After that, we will move on to general public comment. And then just keep in mind, we have 30 minutes to just discuss potential community benefits to be worked through this process. And another 30 minutes will be spent discussing who currently that's in this room is interested in being part of this ad hoc committee. And we'll talk about the process of how to nominate folks and how the application process for that will work. Okay, I see someone right there with their hand up with a question specific to the proposal and the incentive requested. We have a microphone.
Quick question for the developer. You talked about 3 different building types. Could you talk a little bit about the prices of these different buildings? Especially as it relates to median income.
Okay, so right now, our sales prices for the, the market sales price are 150, 165, and 190. Is that right? Hold on, I just want to make sure I'm 100% accurate before I say anything. 160,000, 175, and 190. Right, so
50%.
we are using the Brownfield tax increment financing to provide down payment assistance for the affordable units. That's how we're coming down to meet that targeted area median income. So the first mortgage that a home buyer will be required to put on a house will be less than the market sales price. That's how this program works. 40% AMI will require additional down payment assistance through the first mortgage providers. We're talking to Huntington, PNC, and other banks that have pretty significant CRA obligation in this area. I'm sorry, Community Reinvestment Act obligation. But those folks, the 40% AMI families are going to need outside down payment assistance in order to make it all work. We do not want to put families in here that are not going to be sustainable. So we are committed to working to make that happen.
I'll just add to that. We have a pretty comprehensive plan that, we'll be working with additional community lenders, nonprofits. And as Jill said, we'll be meeting debt to income requirements to make sure that everyone is sustainable. So there's a pretty comprehensive plan in place to get people approved. And a system to get them financed and provide that down payment assistance. And beyond what we're offering as the city will be able to layer on state resources such as MISHDA, as well as additional support. A lot of the lenders have additional down payment assistance to buy them down even further and meet their requirements for debt to income.
Quick question. Me and my husband here, we're retired. What would you suggest for us to do? We don't want a high rise up and down because we don't do steps. But what could you find? A cottage? Would it be a 3-bedroom? What would it be?
We have the single stories.
We have one product right now. Unfortunately, we're limited in our scope and in the size. We are going to offer a smaller unit that's just under 500 square feet. That's all accessible. On the first floor, we're still finalizing those floor plans. That's the only option without stairs. The rest would be upper level units, either through the duplex or through the detached row home.
I have a question. How many of those out of the whole?
It's likely that we'll have probably 4 or 5 of those, just
Okay.
because those are more costly to
I
build.
figured, yeah.
It varies. Obviously, doing a fully accessible unit versus that's 1 floor versus the 2-story is going to vary. And we're anywhere from 180 to 200, depending on the floor plan.
would say that's probably less affordable than most other.
Oh, yeah, I got a question.
That's our cost. That's not the cost that's transferred to purchasing.
Okay, if we could have folks raise their hand and have one person speak at once. There's folks on Zoom. It's hard for them to hear the conversation going on. All right, the gentleman in the front, you have the microphone.
Yes, you said the duplexes, are they just just one by itself, or is it upstairs too, or how that works? On the duplexes,
They're
two-story.
they're two-story.
two-story, or got an
Yes.
apartment? I know that single apartment. Oh, I got you.
So I don't know, it does look like, based on what they said, there's about 4 to 6 that are single story total right now for the.
Could you describe what characteristics of that property qualify it as a brownfield?
Absolutely. This, as many of you know, there was a former building on the site that was demolished. The subsurface investigation
I'm
identified,
sorry, there was a what on the property?
there was a former building on the site that was occupied, I believe, by the Boys and Girls Club that was demolished a while ago. Subsurface investigation showed some presence of metals, arsenic and selenium that are above drinking water criteria along the southern border of the site.
So that property was on the northern border of the site.
Oh, where the property was demolished? Yes, understood. And not really correlating those two, just giving the history. So the contamination was found along the southern portion of the site near the rail, where we'll be digging out for the detention basin. All those soils will be removed.
So what happens if your application for funding is denied or reduced? What happens to the finances of the project at that point?
If, you mean by the city?
Well, whoever provides the brownfield funding.
So, right, our process is to start with the city to get local support and then go to the Washtenaw County Brownfield Authority. It is a critical component of the financing. It would be really difficult to make the financing work without that brownfield component.
And then Michael had another part of his question that you didn't respond to. What's the square footage of the different units that you're offering?
Okay, so the cabins are 450 square feet. The row houses, 2 stories, are 900 square feet, and the duplexes are 1,200 square feet.
Do they have basements or storage areas?
No, they're on slabs.
All right, we have someone in the back with their hand raised on my right. And then we have someone.
Hi, I just have a question for the 50% of the houses that do not qualify for the down payment assistance. What is the average cost that you're predicting that someone could buy these 3-style houses for?
So the sales price for the 900 square foot unit is 175,000, which equates to 194 a square foot. The duplex is 190,000, which equates to 158 a square foot. Those are 2 bedrooms, bath and a half.
Okay, looks like Tyler had his hand up next.
Hello.
Hi,
Would you pardon me for your name again? I'm so sorry.
I'm Jill,
Jill.
and this is Shannon.
Thanks for spending your time with us, Jill. I appreciate it. Jill, being that you have an environmental science background, I'm sure that you know that there's 2 springs at the site currently that historically have been there for as long as Ypsilanti's been around. Through small bit of historic research I did, which took me just a couple moments, I did find out that they were diverted by the city in the 1940s. As somebody who walks the site every day with my dog for the last 8 years, I've got to witness these two beautiful springs come back and create a pond at the property. Initially, I thought it was just runoff from the removal of the building. But later I discovered by just spending a lot of time on the property that there's two springs that are constantly flowing all time of year. And there's about a 45-degree temperature they stay constant at. In addition, unfortunately, the city mowed down the cattails on the property, but previous to the city mowing down the cattails 5 times in a row, there was a nesting pair of red-winged blackbirds there too. I've seen duck eggs on the property. I've seen deer visit the property frequently, coyotes. So just, I wanted to speak to your environmental sciences background and let you be aware of those things and just let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the front there, Christopher. Yep.
Hi. So your prices per square foot, does that include site improvements?
Yes.
So you're talking about
This
100.
is the purchase price per
Pardon
square
me?
foot. This is the sales price for square foot for market.
So that includes building costs, site improvements, and profit.
It's just the sales price.
Well, yeah, but your sale price
It costs us more to build it than they're buying it for. That's why we need the incentive.
well, just say to me, so the price per square foot that you're talking about, does that include site improvements and the cost of building the building?
The prices will be a finished product.
I'm sorry.
You're not really asking the right question. Yes, you will get all the site improvements at
So
that
all the
purchase
site
price, a
improvements are
completely
built
finished
into the
unit.
sale price
Correct.
at the
Yeah.
time that you offer the building for sale.
Yes.
That's all I need to know.
Okay. Hope we understood.
I have a question here. What do you expect from people that want to volunteer to be on the committee?
We have 30 minutes set aside for that after we finish up public comment. So hopefully you'll be able to stick around for that. And if you can't stick around for the full part, applications will go live tomorrow morning and you can apply online, and then council will collect all of those. So even folks who are not here could apply and council could approve them to be on the ad hoc committee.
Just a quick number for reference. So I looked at the past 23 homes sold in the Deeptown area for the past year, and the average price per square foot was $161, just to have a number to compare it to.
All right, let's just, the two hands that just rose, after that, we have people on Zoom who need to ask questions before we move on to the two pieces of this meeting that are going to take up a bulk of the time, which is the conversation about benefits and then the ad hoc nominations. 3, I see that you have your hand up again.
A couple of questions in terms of, I mean, having worked a lot with low-income families over 50 years, do the buildings have basements?
No.
Is there space available for people to have tools or workshops in order to do their own work?
They'll have storage space, but it will all be in the interior.
Okay, so there won't be a space for like 75 square feet or something for you to actually work on projects other than your lawnmower or that type of stuff. How will will this still be under a homeowners association?
Yes.
And how does that work? I mean, do they take on liability for anything that goes wrong?
This will be under Michigan site condo law. The restrictions for the 50% set aside will be embedded into the site condominium in the units, and as well as embedded into the master deed and bylaw provisions, and have separate notes for down payment assistance.
Okay.
Will be homeowner managed as per Michigan law.
And with the homeowner assistance, the people have to actually occupy the
Yes.
place for or
They will be allowed to resell, but any resale unit would have to comply with the terms of the note that we're going to work through with the city, meaning that it would have to remain affordable for the period that we deem likely 10 to 15 years at minimum.
Okay. And there's a host of basically requests related to the water, related to environmental issues, related to marsh plating, related to safety. Could we have those studies actually posted also on the website so the community can read them? Because you're really dealing with the fact you've got to develop a working relationship with the people. These are dead end blocks.
Meetings with public, mainly everything you just mentioned. And so we've completed the studies to really analyze those concerns. So everything we've done, we've shared with the city. So they will be publicly available.
All right, next person.
Hi, I have a house on Locust. There's 2 houses that have Locust addresses, and currently Grove Street is shut down at the tracks. Are you going to reopen that road or something? Because otherwise we're going to have 80 to 90 vehicles using our little street there. And also, how far apart are the houses? Are they going to be right on top of each other, or is there space?
So to address the dead end roads, when the city shut down roads at Hope State at the Amtrak station, there was not a mechanism to reopen those. And so you have to get approval from the train as well as MDOT in order to reopen any closed road end. And I don't foresee that happening. Those roads were 2 roads that MDOT really wanted to close for many, many, many years. So I don't see that actually happening. As far as the, I didn't remember the last question.
Let's add one thing. I think that's a really good question about the community benefits process, and several meetings will happen. That would be something good to bring up with the ad hoc committee as well.
I'm glad you brought up, Joe, the point about how they don't really want to do the work that was done to close off those roads. I think everybody would be thinking about, doesn't this seem like square peg round hole kind of thing? Why not Water Street across or some other spot where it's bigger? It's so obvious. It's so obvious.
On Zoom who have questions, please raise your hands now and we'll call you in the order that you raised your hands, and we'll get to you after.
Okay, the first individual with their hand raised on the attendees list is Doug Reed. I'll allow them to speak now. Or actually, you could just unmute yourself and address the committee. Doug Reed.
You guys got me? Can you hear me okay? Because I can't hear anything you're saying. Okay, I'll just go ahead. I know everybody has a limited time. I have a few concerns. I'll just name them off the top. Space for the area, local traffic issues, which you just touched on. You're not opening those roads. Road maintenance and the poverty levels. I understand you're going to market the area. I'm kind of concerned you're going to be bringing in poverty levels from Ann Arbor and maybe closer to Detroit rather than local homeowners and people here. Are the homes going to be able to be bought for rental purposes, or are they strictly not rentals? And the Locust Street that was addressed earlier, I don't even think that's really zoned as a street. It's more like an alley. So I think the traffic levels are really a concern, as well as it was mentioned earlier by Tyler, but with the natural springs. There's so many reasons to not do this in this area. And the Water Street is the perfect location. So thank you for your time, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
The next individual with their hand raised on the attendees list is Amanda Smith. I'll allow them to speak now, or actually just.
Hi there. I had the opportunity to walk the site about 6 months ago with a couple of friends who have some biology and environmental background. I think it's really exciting and interesting that this project might happen. I think it's really cool that it's walkable to downtown and Depot Town and that it would provide homes for people who would need them. My question for the developer is, when you mentioned the affordability being, I think you said 40 to 120% of area median income, I'm interested in learning how you define area.
Typically, that is designed or driven by the area, metropolitan statistical area. We know that the city
No, you're good now.
I start over.
You can hear us now, Amanda?
Amanda, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. It disconnected briefly, but you're back.
So typically affordability is driven by the metropolitan statistical area, right? And unfortunately, IPSI is part of the larger Washtenaw MSA. We've been to the city about what affordability should look like for the city. And we hope to keep those conversations moving forward and come to a conclusion on how the affordability should be structured, but that will be part of the CBO conversations.
I think someone started to ask a question of me.
Amanda, can you hear me? Great, thumbs up. I just unmuted myself. Okay. So Amanda, when Renovari came to the city and asked about the AMI, we actually brought up the concern with the difference between and the city of Ypsilanti, and that is why they chose the 40 to 120, understanding that we really want to capture the city's affordability, not just Washtenaw County's affordability. Sorry for that being very broken.
There's one more person after her.
Yeah. I want to ask them. Doug Reed, you are next. I'm asking you to unmute right now.
There's someone in the audience ahead of you.
He's not.
Okay, so we'll go to the audience while we wait for that. The red hackers. Christopher. The one in the red hackers before.
How are they gonna get out on Park Street? On the street. When people go look at that, you know. Street right now in Park Street. If they get out. Are you talking?
It's asking how you're gonna in now Park Street from across.
Yes. Come out of Park.
Hello again?
So just, you know.
Hello?
I think I'm on your hotspot because I lost mine a while ago.
All right, while we're waiting for the Zoom, let's move on to the gentleman in the front. And then we'll go to the back row. I saw Jen had her hand up first and then Rod.
Hi again. Can you hear me? Just a real quick question. So the income issue related to this development, you're saying is based on a comparison to the city as a whole, as opposed to the neighborhood. That's what I heard.
The 40% AMI is to capture the actual, the 40% AMI is to capture the actual affordability of city of Ypsilanti residents as compared to Washtenaw County as a whole.
It's a citywide parameter as opposed to related to the specific neighborhood that this development's going in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, that's all.
All right, Jen was next, and then Rod. That is Rod, right?
I just wanted to say, I think this is an incredibly important project. I'm actually very excited. I'm a business owner. I live here in the city of Ypsilanti. I'm a property owner downtown, and I have a lot of people in my life that could benefit from this project. I think it's an amazing opportunity to use contractors and developers who are local, who know these kind of projects and are well-informed. I will say that I think it's important to introduce this kind of project and community into a neighborhood where there are homes around it. I know that some people's opinion is that this should happen on Water Street, which would immediately isolate this community. And I think that is the antithesis of what we are in Ypsilanti. We should be about involving each other in this space. And I know that there are a lot of ins and outs to this type of project, but if this is truly to be a community and not an isolated neighborhood where we just put a set of homes, this needs to have a further discussion. I'm really excited about this. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be a part of Ypsilanti.
Thank you. That is you, Rod, right? I think. Yes, okay, I thought so.
Thank you. I've heard a lot of talk about locusts tonight, which is the whole safety issue I have three questions really. Has there been a traffic study done? Is there going to be one? What is the infrastructure plan for a street like Locust, which is clearly not up to the traffic that's gonna be up and down it, and the construction will probably ruin that street, if not the streets around it. And lastly, what about the railroad tracks? What kind of safety plan do you have for the railroad tracks? Because Michigan Avenue is the main thoroughfare, and there's not a direct way unless you go over the railroad tracks. So you need a plan for that.
I can speak for Locust Street only on that, and Locust Street is a city street. It is. There's question of whether or not it is, but that is an actual city street. We understand that it's very small. We would not recommend people use that as the typical thoroughfare to this development. But Locust Street is not the developers. They didn't create Locust Street, and so that's going to be something that the city's going to have to figure out what to do with.
Can I also just add, I think that is a very good topic of discussion for the community benefits process as well. I know that this is a new ordinance that we're trying to implement, but I think some of these very good questions and answers, and I think it should be worked through the community benefits process. That could be one of the items that you want to address as part of this incentive request. All right, so there's two more hands. Three, we really have to move on to the next two parts because each will take quite some time. If you have questions specific to things that could be addressed during the community benefits discussion, I would recommend waiting for those. We still need to deliberate on the ad hoc committee as well.
I didn't see your map too clearly, but do you have off-street parking or garages for all of these? And how many car parking spaces are there per units?
We do not have garages. We have driveways. We have multiple spots per unit, and we'll publish that. We expect to have our site plan that's going to range between the 42 and 45 units done within the next 2 weeks. We'll post that, including all of the parking spots. We will have off-street parking as allowed within accordance to the zoning ordinance. And there will be multiple parking spots per unit, so that we can say, and we'll post those final numbers once the site plans are in. Correct.
So the city has the ability to make a decision as to how the parking is going to be dealt with, right?
Correct.
But that's going to be handled through the planning commission process.
Okay, I believe you have the microphone over there.
Just something to think about. It's something I think we're all very worried about. It was brought up earlier that maybe, if these houses were placed on Water Street, that it would feel isolating. It's so obvious that these don't fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. How does that not feel isolating? You're going to put them right in our neighborhood, and there's our little on slab shacks that are tiny. How could you have high quality of life in these tiny little houses that cost too much to live in? That doesn't.
Okay, let's, we're gonna move on. I don't really think that's relevant. All right, we are going to spend 30 minutes identifying potential community benefits. So folks should feel free to raise their hand if you have ideas for potential community benefits. All right, Mark. And Christopher right here in the front.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking about a lot of the topics that came up about Locust Street and Cross Street and the traffic and that kind of thing. And one very vague, area that could be interesting to consider would be how is, and I'm also thinking about the city's, I don't know what it is, but there's some city planning document about making the city more walkable. So what are things that
the master plan?
Thank you. The master plan that can be done to make it more walkable to Depot Town, but also more safer. As I believe you were saying, Cross Street is pretty crazy. So what can be done to infrastructure wise, a better crosswalk, stop signs that could potentially, I don't know, just ideas.
Hi, my name's Mo. I've worked at several businesses in downtown and Depot Town the past 7 years. And if I were able to get affordable housing or accessible housing near these spots, I wouldn't even drive my car, which would be awesome because it's greater for the planet, great for me, and I could get to work easily. Right now, I had to move out of the city and able to afford to live because rent prices are so high right now. I'm trying to be a first-time homeowner and these prices seemed lower than what I was trying to buy a house for. Right now, and I understand that changes. I don't know everything about buying a house, but it would be great to live within walking distance because I wouldn't drive my car. I would walk everywhere, even in the winter. I'm a Michigander, I'm used to it. So if I could live somewhere like this, I really do think it'd be beneficial to make Ipsy more walkable, to make it more accessible for the people who have worked downtown for years, like myself. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It sounds like we have a theme of walkability and making it safer. Does anybody else want to add anything about walkability? Okay. Oh, we'll go to you in the back next.
Where are these kids going to go to school?
With regard to walkability,
I just wonder
with regard to walkability,
where are the kids going to go?
Can you hear me okay?
Sorry, we have someone in the front with the microphone right now.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like that was a question.
Where will kids go to school?
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a choice between the parent and, the parents of those children. If they live in this site, they would be in the Ypsilanti School District, but where they go is up to their parents. But to keep on topic with ideas for community benefits, all right, Mary Ellen?
So with regard to the subject of walkability and with regard to safety, I think that if there are going to be community benefits, one priority has to be some kind of a crossing at either Grove or Park Street. Michigan Avenue is where they're going to find public transportation and most of their shopping. There needs to be at a minimum a pedestrian walkway. Right now, you cannot cross that safely, and people will do that. I mean, they just will do it. They do it now. And if there's another 100 people, the railroad crossing, I'm talking about a pedestrian walkway across the railroad at a minimum, because people will cross the railroad. They do now. You have another 100 people and it'll happen even more frequently.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think that's a very good idea, and I would recommend that you continue to press that during the community benefits process.
Hi again. Is this on? We've lived in this neighborhood for almost 40 years, and we've raised 3 children here, and all of them went to Artis. And the thing is that now we're retired, or I'm retired, my wife is coming up to retirement. But the thing that's really cool about this neighborhood is the fact that young families are coming back in, and we've got kids going to school. Almost every day I walk to the corner store and buy a paper, and there's 2 or 3 people walking their kids over to the elementary school. And I think that if there was a real positive that could come out of this development, I think what it would be to create an environment where, and a building unit that would be so accommodating to families, at least 2 adults and 2 children. And to make sure that that building unit is so family, and the whole development is so family oriented. And I think it'd grow the neighborhood and be a really, really positive benefit to what we're trying to accomplish as a community. So.
All right, thank you so much for that. We have someone in the back.
Hi, just kind of to talk about a little bit of the walkability of that area as well. Right now, the sidewalks in that area are not great. Most people that I see that do walk to work actually end up walking right down the middle of Grove Street at all times of the day and night, normally not wearing reflective gear. However, is there going to be a city plan for lighting of that area, for fixing the existing sidewalks that are already in that surrounding area to make this community more accessible for walking?
Quickly, Joe or Christopher, I
Yes.
believe part of our master plan and with other site developments that we've had, not housing, but businesses, we've required complete sidewalks.
Yes, that is correct. Sidewalks will be part of this development. Sidewalks will, so there's many ways that can be tackled, but yes is the answer to that.
Okay, great. Thank you for.
I'm responding to a comment made earlier. I understand, and I read that this is going to be a very family-friendly community. I don't, however, feel like every unit has to be fitted toward a heterosexist lifestyle. I'm just saying that as a community member and for all the community members in town that don't have the 2 children. So I think that there's a lot of validity for the smaller units, people that are single and don't have children and are just needing to find a home and want to set roots down in Ypsilanti.
Thank you for offering that feedback. All right, do we have anyone else who wants to offer some ideas for potential community benefits? I think we have some really good ones with lighting and better walkability.
I think it's important we just think about what affordability really means. Like what is actually truly affordable? Like if you are a 2-income household, let's pretend, and one of you loses your job, will you lose this house? That's a big deal. It's something that has to be thought about. And a lot of people maybe think that these are affordable numbers, but I think that you're I think a lot more discussion has to be done because some of those numbers are not doable numbers, especially when you consider the square footage. It's that simple.
Thank you so much for that. Tyler, you have your hand raised.
So again, thank you so much for coming here and spending your time this evening. I imagine that you guys as a developer have a certain number of units that you want to produce with a certain amount of in and out. And there's certain projects that won't make a whole lot of sense unless those numbers kind of hit. And I understand that from my background as well. I hate to speak for all of our neighbors, but I can speak for the experiences I've spent with our neighbors and as well as our charrette that we had in 2019 that for some reason disappeared. I don't see it online anywhere. But in that time period, we communicated, we really don't want a lot of housing in the middle of this site. We also really don't want a road through this site. What would be very relatively easy and could really help unburden your costs is just simply developing along High Street and along Grove Street. I know that won't get as many units. I know there won't be as much development costs. I know there won't be as many incentives and so on and so forth. But if you're really here to understand what our community and our neighbors want and would like to very much get behind for our development, it would be some row houses on High Street and some houses on Grove Street, not putting a road through this beautiful park that is our park, that is actually historically Ypsilanti's oldest park. If you guys want ever the developers to have some lessons about history on the site, I would love to take you through and tell you all about it. There's also our local historian, James Mann. I'm sure he'd love to spend some time as well, but this site does mean something to us. I know that we put it in this public realm as a domain, but it's our park and it's been our park for a really, really long time. And up until very recently, there was a baseball field there and basketball courts that I played basketball on and played baseball on. So the dismissive nature of calling this public is, for somebody who's a neighbor of the property, a little insulting. It makes me want to go to a recreation park and be like, let's just develop this then, or just go to all the other parks and say, how would you like it? So sorry to overexpress, but I really think the greatest benefit to our community as developers for this site is not developing the middle of the site or putting a road through this site, but simply developing Grove Street and High Street. And also the city has a full ability, because they have full ownership of this property, to divide the site out and give you just those two portions and keep our area in the middle as a park. So that's my proposal.
Thank you. Alrighty, right in the next one in the middle there. Thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback off Tyler, that since this is kind of a tax incentive and from the 2.5 million that's being requested, is that I think compromise is going to be important. And a lot of our neighbors, we've only been here for a couple of years, but they've been there for decades, and they played a big role in making this neighborhood as nice as it's been. So it's very personal to a lot of people. And for this whole time we've been trying to develop on it, it's always been a question of density. And while everybody supports, I don't mean to speak for everybody, but from the gist of talking to everybody supports affordable housing in this area. It's just to what level of density is appropriate for this neighborhood. So I hope, as part of the community benefit, it's open to compromise.
Thank you. We have one more person up here.
So one of my largest concerns personally is, you have these incentives for these buyers buying these homes the first go around, right? That make these into affordable housing. But I don't know, because I've not personally done the research, but what happens with the next home buyer? They have these inflated home prices that are actually higher price per square foot than everywhere else in the area. And realistically, who wants to live in a 450 square foot studio, essentially, that costs more than anything else in the area? I just don't understand what happens after the first home buyer decides to move on, because it's no longer affordable housing. What's that? Oh, yeah.
I think, and to respond to that as part of, I think this is good to be woven into the community benefits process. They will be deed restricted. So that's something that can you hear me? I'm sorry. that's something that both the Community Benefits Ad Hoc Committee can work on, as well as City Council before anything is even adopted. So I would, I think this is a good thing that you bring up. I have concerns about that as well. And I think everyone on City Council, without speaking for them, I think we've all in some way or another mentioned are concerned about that as well. So I think your head's in the same plate that all of our heads are at right now. Okay, the gentleman next to you. Glasses, sorry.
I know a lot has been said about Locust Street. I just wanted to add one part that 2 emergency vehicles cannot pass each other on that road. So I think that is concerning to public safety. That road is also overlapped with sidewalks. So with the emergency vehicles can't get by using the road and the sidewalks together.
Thank you.
The question that's been kind of rolling around in my head, kind of from the beginning when this all started, was the original agreement was that the developers would buy the property for a certain price from the city, and then they would develop it to a certain extent. And based on a certain set of parameters that were going to be developed by the city and the community around it. Now, all of a sudden, we're dealing with a $250 million grant, and having been associated with development in Washtenaw County, there's a bunch of developers that I know that would be very happy to come in and have that $250 million of $2.5 million available to them. Why did these guys get access to that 2.5 million when there's all kinds of developers that have not had access to that idea from the very beginning? Why wasn't it part of the original planning? And why isn't it now looking from the city point of view? Why aren't you looking at it from the standpoint that maybe we should open this up to
For clarity,
Washtenaw
I'm just
County
gonna,
developers rather than Detroit developers?
for clarity, I just want to clarify that that's not the case. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but also I do want us to stay on topic with requested community benefit ideas.
But the benefit would be, I'm sorry, and I did get off the subject, but the benefit would be that you would have local developers that have a local interest in this property, involved in the property, rather than having outside developers. You've basically cut all of the other people that could do this project out of the picture because of the original process. And now all of a sudden you're going to dump $2.5 million on top of it. And
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's
I'll do a
incorrect.
project on that property for $2.5 million right now.
Okay.
So
can you please
just
respond
to-
that, and then we need to move on.
Yeah, so when it comes to the development, we did put this out for an RFP. We did receive 4 proposals. None of them worked. Some of them were local developers, some were outside developers. Oh, they had access to more than that. So they had access to much more than $2.5 million. Incentives were always on the table with that deal. So they were also much more expensive homes that they were looking to build. So this is where we were at, and I think that answers the question. Do we want to go to the one person online, Councilmember Somerville?
Sure.
Hi, yes, this is Amber. I live in Ward 3 near the site. And I am noticing, I did come here late, so I don't know if it was explained well, but yeah, I just want to reiterate, I was a part of the process for this ordinance to come into play to allow more participation from residents to, negotiate for benefits. And it seems like, maybe one of the errors is we needed to spread it across 2 meetings because there's so much to cover. But I just want to, reiterate that this time is supposed to be spent for talking about and generating ideas. It's supposed to be a very generative and hopefully uplifting process of thinking about creative ideas that we, in terms of benefits that we can get for the subsidies or incentives that are being offered to the developer. So really like anything you can imagine, I would hope you would just put it out there, because the folks that are going to be on the representing body for the committee are going to base their negotiations on the conversation tonight. So it's really important to really, like, if you have any ideas, just spit it out, so that, you know, we can have it all documented down, and hopefully their staff writing this down. But I can throw out a couple ideas, or maybe more than a couple, since I haven't heard a ton yet. But one is definitely, you know, funding the existing housing trust to the tune of 2.5 million or some other figure, or, you know, working with some money and with the county to start a community land trust. That could be another thing. Some other more concrete benefits that could come from this is, like, I'm not sure if this was already discussed, like a covered bus stop or a shelter for a bus stop, as well as like recycling for multifamily apartment buildings in the city. Currently, multifamily apartment units do not have access to the recycling program in Ypsilanti, so that might be something we could negotiate. We could negotiate the length of the affordability of that's being offered. You know, I think 99 years is a good figure, a 99-year promise to keep this development affordable is fair, because that's what Cross Street Village was under, was a 99-year agreement. So we should try to get another development for a 99-year agreement. You know, we could also argue for public kiosks in the city. Right now, we don't have anywhere to kind of communicate publicly, so some public kiosks could be useful. I've heard people in the past also argue for trash receptacles for, you know, we don't have like a designated trash receptacle like other municipalities have. And there's loads of other kind of like green infrastructure that could be argued for. The other people probably have a better idea than I mostly am someone that's like interested and more knowledgeable in housing. So yeah, I would love to hear other people's ideas as far as public infrastructure and, you know, environmental opportunities, as well as anything else that comes to mind. So thank you.
Thank you, Amber. I appreciate you throwing out all of those ideas. And I just want to take this time to acknowledge Amber was critical in coming up with a community benefits ordinance. And this is the second time that it's been triggered due to a requested incentive. So part of this process is also learning how to engage with the public on this concept of what do community benefits mean to Ypsilanti. So I appreciate everybody being here and participating. I hope that we can continue to have good dialogue around you know, concepts that you think are equal to the incentive requested. There's lots of more work to do on this.
We have one more person, Amy.
Okay.
Amy Clarice, I'm
Awesome,
gonna ask
thank
you to unmute.
Hello, thanks for holding this. So I am have some connection to the location because I currently live on River Street in Ypsilanti, but my mom was a resident of 216 North Grove Street for 15 years, and I would visit her a lot, which is right across the street from the side of the old Boys and Girls Club. Would play basketball in the field and would lay out there and dream of the stars and all different types of stuff. So I want to mention, like, I think that it would be really important that we think about some sort of way that that site can be used as some sort of like a youth center as well, potentially, because I think that was something that I haven't heard yet. And I heard the discussion about there not being a road going through it and that being maintained as a park, but I think something that was intentional for youth that involved programming for them could be really cool right there, because I think there's not a lot of options in that area. And then also there's like a wetland that's formed. If you walk the property, I'm not exactly sure where the development fits in to where that wetland area has started, where there's like cattails growing and basically like a whole rewilding has happened there. And I wasn't sure if the wildlife has been taken into account in this process at all, and how, you know, things like pavement, permeable surfaces, you know, it's going to really affect possibly the water runoff as well. So that was something else I was just wondering if that's been discussed in this process. Was, thinking about the watershed and also the wildlife that are currently living there. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now. I appreciate the space to be able to share them.
Thank you, Amy. Next, we have Drew Guest, and that will be the last person.
Can I just respond to Amy really fast?
Yes.
I don't know if you've been on, I can't see the attendees on Zoom. Someone in the audience did bring up that issue of wildlife, and another person did bring up issues related to runoff. So I appreciate you highlighting that as well. I have it in my notes, and I'll make sure that everything that folks are saying in person or online, they're in my notes, so they will follow this whole process.
Drew Guest, you are now able to speak.
Hello, I am a first year Ypsilanti resident, but we're really kind of merging in with the community. And one benefit, I was just like, I just kind of leapfrogging on like the maybe not putting a road in that like in that site. Maybe like that could be utilized as something like an urban garden or something, just to promote that like inclusivity with like surrounding neighborhoods. So maybe it could be like a central area for other people to come in and actually like communicate and grow things and make friends and promote that sense of community. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Earlier, someone brought up, I believe it was Tyler, space for activities like basketball, and there used to be a baseball diamond, so maybe some sort of space for recreation. It sounds like there at least been 2 people to bring that up tonight, so it's been picked up as a theme, at least so far. Okay, right in the front. You have the microphone.
Hi, I'm just following up on that theme. I think it's not even just like a park for adolescents to get together and, play ball or whatever, but if it's going to be a community that has younger children in it, there need to be some amenities for them built somewhere, because they really can't walk to what does exist within, 3/4 of a mile, and certainly not by themselves. And they're going to need to be out and active and doing something also. So just to look at the whole age range, not just a spot for adolescents.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing, and I don't know if folks in this room have any input on this, City Council has been talking a lot about reinstating park bathrooms. That could be something considered if there's a space for recreation. Public bathrooms became critical when we shut everything down in the beginning of the pandemic. So that's something that as a whole citywide council began talking about during our goal setting a month ago now. So that's an idea to consider. Okay, Teresa.
Hi, good evening. This is really exciting conversation. I am thinking about the affordability because I am really excited about affordable home ownership. We haven't had any of that, I think, since the Habitat houses on the south side of Ypsi, maybe 20, 30 years ago. Mayor Richardson would know about those and be able to fill us in. So this is exciting to think about. I heard at the beginning a little bit about trying to address the condo association fees. I just want to lift that up for part of the conversations to make sure that ongoing that those can be met, especially for the affordable units. I've worked with a project in Ann Arbor that has mixed income condos, and there's been challenges with collecting those fees over time and maintaining the units long term. So I just want to lift that up to sort of think about some being market rate, some being affordable, how that gets balanced long term to make sure that those any sort of kind of shared spaces or areas are maintained for all the tenants. I know in previous sort of concepts for the site, there was interest in potentially having a pathway that along the railroad tracks to some extent that could move to Depot Town as one of those pedestrian links that folks have been talking about. That'd be great. And just a reminder, as much as I know for the neighbors, it will be a loss of having some open space. Prospect Park is a great park that is so close by with excellent amenities. I love going through it every day. So I just want a reminder that that's one of the great things about this location is that it is so close to such a great park and a great elementary school. So just want to lift that up. There'll be some great options for youth that potentially could live there. Thanks.
All right, before we proceed with another comment, I do just want to know it's 8:29. We do still need to discuss ad hoc committee recommendations. If you all feel like we can wrap up some of the additional comments in the next 15 to 20 minutes and then leave time for ad hoc nominations, I think that would be good. I don't know about you, but what was that? Move on. Has it been a half hour? Okay. Okay. Before we move on, anyone else want to add a few comments on ideas that you might have? This won't be the last time for ideas. Okay, in the back there at the hand raise. And then I see that we have Amber with her hand raised on Zoom.
One of my comments about Prospect Park and why it is a very lovely park. I have tried to walk my dog through there in the past year. Unfortunately, there seems to always be glass shards everywhere, cans, metal scraps. So I don't feel safe even walking my dog through that park until something happens and that we're able to clean up that park. It's hard to use that as a shining point of paving over this beautiful land and putting a bunch of houses on it. My second comment was, in the beginning, there was talking about putting electric car charging ports there. What would those look like? Would that be for community use? Would that just be for residents of that area? And is it attached to specific houses? And who pays for electricity of those? They're very expensive to maintain.
Is there anyone else before we go to Amber? So this is the time for you to discuss the benefits that you would like to see. The developer will be addressing these directly to the committee, but all of these recommendations, that's why we have Tom right here, taking down everyone's recommendation, and we're also recording the meeting. So then all of that can go to the committee. And so all the recommendations will be addressed by the committee with the developer sitting right there.
Can I add on to that last comment about EV charging? Obviously we haven't seen a final site plan. I also think, that's something that council can ultimately determine as well. So there's time for that. I would imagine that if an EV charging ability was for each property, it would be the person and their individual DTE bill that would cover that. All right, one more hand in the back and then we'll go to the Zoom.
So the benefits that I would like to see with these housing are houses that will actually retain their value. Buying a home is a 30-year decision. And with the price per square foot, and we're in all-time market highs with COVID, when that market normalizes and likely drops, what are the ability for these homes to retain their values and people not to get stuck with a loan that isn't backed by an asset? It doesn't seem like it's a community benefit for these homes to be ones that aren't good financial decisions because they're gonna lose value compared to the rest of the neighborhood. So I wanna know what's the financial security they get in buying these homes for something that's supposed to grow in value, not decrease because of the market conditions they're being bought in.
I believe we're with Amber now.
Okay, let's go over to Amber on Zoom and then we'll follow up with one more person in person.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo support for public bathrooms in our parks and, Riverside and perhaps Rock Island, Prospect Park, which I think maybe the temporary porta potty was removed. Park Ridge, I think that might be good to include public bathrooms as a negotiating item, as well as maybe even a public grocery store. We are kind of low and on food, considered a food desert in some areas. So You know, there are towns that are smaller than us that have funded grocery stores that have public city employees as staff, and it's an interesting model, and it's interesting that it's mostly conservative small towns that have taken this on, but why not do it in Ypsilanti? I think another thing that could be negotiated is any kind of management company attached to this project, because that is something that's come up in the other CBO process for Clark Road, is discussing who the potential management company is. So yeah, I would be interested in that as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Amber. We have one more person in-house.
We have one more on Zoom. and then-
Okay, we'll go here and then back on Zoom.
Okay, this is purely selfish here. I've got the house on Locust. I've got about 20 feet of front yard. Like we've said, it's a very small road. The house is pre-1850. I have no idea of how old. It's tree bark on the 2x4s. And I have a Michigan basement. My concern is all the traffic that's going to be on it. Is it going to structurally damage my house? If they're doing the equipment that it's going to take to destroy that land, is it going to destroy my house also? I've already had to do basement or brick repair on the foundation and such, and I just don't want my house collapsing because you have your trucks coming down it. Thanks.
Amanda Smith, you were the last person to speak.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo some of the things that Amber said earlier. I think she had some great ideas with regard to some of the benefits that we could look for in terms of covered bus stops and shelters, recycling, all of the things that she mentioned earlier. I also wanted to address one of the comments that really ticked me off, so I'm just going to take a little bit of time for that. If Prospect Park is not good enough for your dog, how is it possibly good enough for my 7-year-old who plays there every single day? Thanks.
All right, in an effort to avoid back and forth, I'm just going to make the decision that we're moving on now to discuss ad hoc committee recommendations. I mentioned this earlier in the meeting. Tonight is just one opportunity to nominate folks, to ask questions about what this would entail. Applications will go live tomorrow. City Council ultimately decides who is on the ad hoc committee. However, 3 folks will have to be from this meeting. So if you're interested, now might be a good time to say that you're interested.
Please raise your hand.
The meeting schedule for the ad hoc committee will be determined by the ad hoc committee. However, correct me if I'm wrong on the timeline, Joe, council will have 15 days once application closes to select members of the committee. Am I wrong?
So you're not fully wrong.
Okay.
So within 15 days of this meeting, council has to act on the committee. Then there is 60 days for the committee to do its work. So it's a 60-day commitment. And the other community benefits ordinance meeting is going to meet 4 times within that 60 days. Although like Councilwoman Somerville said, it is up to the subcommittee how many times they choose to meet. They have to meet at least twice. Okay, so we have the apps. Christopher and I do. So raise your hand if you'd like an app. We have pens over here if you need them. The meetings will be in person. No Zoom.
And I believe this is going to be one of the last times we do this in the Freight House. As you can tell, we've had issues with technology. We made this an option when COVID numbers were incredibly high in January.
You don't have to do it again. Actually, I would do it again to show you were here tonight. Yes. Would anyone else like an application? Would anyone else like an application? Raise your hand. For those of you online, the application will be available tomorrow morning. And so you will be able to fill it out then.
Okay. I see that we have a hand raised. I don't have an option to unmute. It's Amber's hand raised. Can someone unmute her?
I just don't know you to unmute, Amber.
Thank you. Yeah, just question about process at the last CBO meeting, people that were interested on being the commission stated interest and maybe gave a little information about themselves. And then we were able to do a straw poll. I'm not sure if that's as available, the straw poll aspect, because it's a hybrid meeting, but yeah, I would be interested if we could do something like that.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. I'm hoping to get hands raised so folks can like share what, that they're interested. Thank you for mentioning that. Because about 95% of attendees are in person, the straw poll is going to be very difficult, and I apologize for that. We can, do show of hands, and I can try to count those. Right now, just so I don't know if everyone can see what the audience is doing. Folks have kind of scattered and are discussing and filling things out. I will try to rein everybody in.
It does seem like we've also lost some people who have applied as well. So
For this committee, I am interested. So I'm just naming that now.
Okay, so for folks in the audience, we have one member who is attending remotely, Amber Fellows. She lives in Ward 3, and she has just said that she's interested in being a member of this ad hoc committee. I believe she will fill out an application online.
Amanda Smith, you can now speak.
Hi there. I just also wanted to express interest, and I wanted to point out that the meeting last time was also hybrid, and there was a way for a straw poll to be taken.
All right, give us a second to try to figure that out.
So
I apologize.
Amanda, just to clarify a little bit of that, with the vast majority, we only had one person in person at our last meeting, so the straw poll through Zoom was much easier. Because we have about 40 people in here in the Freight House, it's a lot harder to take a digital straw poll with not everyone being here. So that is an issue. I know, but I don't think there's a way to do it. I'm aware.
All righty, so if folks would like to start, if you're interested, you don't have to commit tonight, but you could maybe say that you're thinking about it and reasons why. I think that would be helpful for everybody here and everyone attending remotely to get an understanding of what your interest might be. Anyone want to go? Anyone interested? Anyone thinking about it? Okay, Amber Fellows has her hand raised.
Andrew, can you unmute her? Yep.
Sure. I just wanted to highlight, I think Amy also had her hand up before I'm speaking, but just for the sake of time, I'll just say that, yeah, I live in this ward. I have been living in this ward for almost the entirety of the 18 years I've been in Ypsilanti. I'm now a homeowner in this neighborhood. So I have some long-term interest as far as what's going on in development. And I was a representative of the community group that did help put together this community benefits ordinance. So I have kind of vested interest in it going well. So I'd love to be a part of the ad hoc committee to kind of see how this might go and see if it will set a standard for how this process can go in the future. My background is in social work, specifically affordable housing. So affordability is very special to me and important. And my own history with affordability is very dear to me. And then my experience with the city, I was on the Human Relations Commission for 3 years as the chair. And that's all for me, but thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Amber. I believe Amy in the audience has their hand raised. If someone could unmute Amy, and then we can go back to Amanda after that.
Sorry, I thought someone else was going before me. I'm happy to talk now though, but they asked me to unmute.
What was that? False alarm?
No, she needs, you can say, you can go ahead and speak. I don't have.
To Amy? Oh, I'm sorry. Amy, you can go ahead and speak now.
Amanda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Amanda, was there not an Amy?
There's an Amy. Amy Clarice looks like still has her hand up, but I'm happy to express a little bit about my interest while my mic is unmuted for the sake of time. So I have been a resident of Ypsilanti for almost a decade. I have been deeply embedded in, interested in what is happening in our community. I really care about equity. I care about things like our schools. I've been really involved with that. I'm very interested in the community benefits process. I think it is fascinating. I think it is a really cool thing that the community put together. I would definitely reach out to those who were instrumental in creating it if I were chosen for this committee so that I could understand it as best I possibly could. But I think that in order for us to do good things in our community, we need to get some more housing available to the people who live here, the people who want to live here, and the people who work here. To do that, I think finding ways that are beneficial both to our community and to the people who are investing in our community is important. And I'm excited about the opportunity to be part of that process. I think there's a lot of good that can come from bringing affordable housing and new neighbors to this particular piece of land that is very walkable and that is very close to our downtown. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. I believe we have someone named Amy in the Zoom that is wishing to speak.
Amy Clarice Schroeds. I'll be going by Amy Clarice in a few months. I'm transitioning my name now, but I am very interested in being a part of this ad hoc committee because my mom's house was directly across the street from this property. She moved here in 2005, but housing affordability also caused her to have to find another place to live as well. And now she lives in an RV. I am fortunate enough to be a homeowner now on River Street and bought a house there in 2016, right after my mom decided she was no longer able to afford to live around here. I had a friend that helped me with the land con still stay in Ypsilanti, and I'm really passionate about this topic of affordable housing and also ecosystem design and the ways that we can design our cities in order to think about all of our neighbors and the animals as well. And so and affordable housing is a huge piece of us being able to have, I think, healthy ecosystems. So I think we need to approach thoughtfully and carefully. And I was also on the committee that started the Rising for Economic Democracy in Ypsilanti group that formed the CBO. So I've been involved with this more so in 2017, 2018, and was out of commission for a little bit, focusing on other projects. But when I saw that this was coming up, and Amber and I talked a little bit about the ad hoc committee too, I decided that it was something that I wanted to see if I could get involved with because of my personal connection to that piece of land. And something that I spent a lot of time like dreaming on for 10 years when I would come and see my mom whenever I visit here. So yeah, thank you so much for your consideration, and I will fill out the application.
Okay, thank you so much, Amy.
All right, so now we're going to go through the people who are still here, who would like to be on the board. So we're going to start with Mary Potts. So please come up to me. I'm going to hand you the microphone and just give a very short explanation on why you'd like to be on the committee.
I would really like to see this piece of property turned into a community to help Ypsilanti grow and to help people that work in Ypsilanti live close to where they work and be able to walk to work and have a commutable lifestyle. I have worked in restaurants in Ann Arbor and in Ypsilanti for over a decade now. And I can tell you that driving to work to Ann Arbor and having to park a half a mile from the restaurant where I work so I could park for free when I make $15 an hour in a restaurant and leaving at 2 a.m. to walk that half mile back to my car is really not a good lifestyle as an adult, you know, who has kids. Like, it's just not a good way to go. I'd like the people I work with and for myself ongoing to be able to live close to where they work and to be able to afford to buy a home. And this community does exactly that. It does it in a piece of property that's been neglected for a really long time. It's not somebody's personal dog park just because they live nearby. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
So we have Hugh Kennedy. I believe he has left. Hugh Kennedy, are you here? Jen Estridge, you are next.
I'm Jenny Stridge, and I live in the city of Ypsilanti. I live in Ward 2, but I'm very interested in being a part of this ad hoc committee as not only an Ypsilanti resident, but a community member and an employer in this town. I feel like I have a vested interest in lots of different ways and facets for this project. Specifically, I have deep love of creating commons spaces and building communities for people. And I believe that that includes everyone in our community. I feel like this is an opportunity for us to see the needs of the community members over just the needs of ourselves. And I think this is a really opportunity. This is a great opportunity.
Tyrone Coleman, are you still here, Tyrone? No, it says here that he has a BS in computer animation and a MS in business intelligence. He's a senior designer at ITC. He's lived in the community for 13 years. Next would be, I'm probably gonna say this wrong, Evangeline Shipe, sorry. I'm not great at names, so I apologize.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Evangeline Shipe. I've only lived here for 1.5 years, but I'm really passionate about Ypsilanti. I'm passionate about the success of Ypsilanti, and I think that I could be a good member in the community as someone who's, you know, just cares and has more of an objective opinion. I haven't been here long enough to really like have a lot of opinions on everything, but I think I could be a good subjective voice, and I care about seeing it grow and succeed in a way that's positive for like the most amount of people. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
Mark Arthur.
Hey everyone, my name is Mark Arthur. I moved to Ypsilanti with my husband about 7 years ago. We rented in Depot Town for about 5 years and really fell in love with not only the city, but the community and the way that we felt really supported here and the walkability and just the vibe. We really felt like it was a good fit for us. And also it was affordable for us. We just recently bought a house. We are on Cross Street near Grove, so in very close proximity to the site. And I am in social work. I am really passionate about community organizing. I'm also an artist. I think I have really good listening skills, listening to like working with different groups, working with different people. I really love that I know a lot of you in the neighborhood already, even though I haven't lived here as long as many of you have. But I feel like I'm a really good listener, and that is something I would absolutely bring to this committee. I feel like I was resonating with a lot of the different ideas, as I said earlier, like, you know, safety, walkability, those things are really important to me, affordability, you know, thinking about how this project can be, you know, tied in intimately with the city's master plan. That's something else I forgot to mention. I have also recently joined. I am a member of the Planning Commission of Ypsilanti and also the non-motorized commission. So I am really invested in Ypsilanti in, you know, making the city a really affordable and safe and awesome walkable place to be. Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Tyler Weston.
Hello, I'm Tyler Weston. I live at 302 North Grove Street, and I happen to be the very privileged owner of the original Gilbert homestead. John Gilbert Sr. moved here in 1820s and helped develop this whole community. He was the first mayor of the village of Ypsilanti in 1835. And this property, as well as all the property that is Depot Town, originally was his plot. He was a surveyor, and he came out here and surveyed this whole land and went back and claimed it. This park means a lot to me. This is where my kids and I play, and I do walk my dog on this property every day for 8 years. I've helped the city to do many things over a very long period of time. In large part, helped redevelop downtown, and I've also helped redevelop Thompson Block. In addition to that, I care deeply for this community on every level. I find a way to use my talent any way I can to benefit young people, people in need, people struggling, people doing great. I show up with a smile on my face. I'm an excellent listener, and I'm deeply invested in this property. In addition to those traits, I also was the top 1% of realtors for 4 years in a row with an average sales price of $150,000, serving this city and these people that we're talking about as far as affordability goes. So that's me in a nutshell. I really would show up if elected into this position as a servant, and I would not bring my own agenda to the table. I'm happy to be a listener and learn, but also bring my talent to bear as well.
Thank you. We have three more. Grant Tillman.
Yeah, hello, my name is Grant Tillman. We moved here from Southern California about a year ago. We moved into 216 North Grove. So we're pretty new here, but I'm actually from Houston, and it kind of reminds me of home. We really enjoy it, so we decided to settle down. The reason I'd like to be on the commission, I'm actually really pro-development. I think it would be best for the city if something did happen to that plot of land. My concerns essentially are the longevity of the project. You know, they talk about it being affordable, but the numbers really don't make sense. You know, because of the programs that they're relying on to make them affordable. So I would just like to make sure that in the long run, the project does make financial sense for everybody involved, and that it is actually what's best for the community. And I would like to be a part of making that happen, ensuring that that is exactly what happens. It's not good for the developer, it's good for the community. So.
Thank you, Jack Clark.
Hi, my name's Jack. I've lived here for 4 years, and I've stayed here for 4 years because I love the community here, and I would love to help it grow in any way that I can.
Thank you. And last but not least, Roderick Johnson.
Hi, I'm Rod Johnson, and I've lived in Ypsilanti for 37 years. I live on Grove Street, 310. When we moved in, the Gilbert Mansion was boarded up, and there was a boys' school there. The house on the corner of High and Grove was boarded up. Not yours, Tyler, but the one across the street. So I've seen the area actually change quite a bit. I've seen the park. They tore down the boys' school. They renovated Grove, the mansion, and we went from hoping that it would be a nice neighborhood to being proud that it's a nice neighborhood. My background in the city, I volunteered for the Rec Commission many decades ago. Served on the Planning Commission for many years. I've been a part of a lot of projects in this town. Seen them come in, I've seen them go up, and I've seen them actually succeed. So I think I know how a entity ought to be, why it would work, and the backgrounds of a lot of why things work and why they don't. So that's why I like to be a part of it, because I'm part of the community and I think I know kind of how this works.
Thank you. So now comes the most unconventional part of everything, because we just found out as we were entering them in our survey that we can only do 10 people and we have 14 people. So what we're going to do is call out 14 names. You're allowed to raise your hand 3 times. We are using the honor system, but you can raise your hand 3 times. So we're going to go through 1 through 14 of everyone who's just spoke. And it's the only way we can figure out to do this. So I apologize in advance. This is not how we intended this. So we're going to start for Amanda Smith, online or in person. Raise your hand if you would like Amanda Smith to be on the committee. That's first choice. Oh, no, just you get 3 choices. So we have 1, 2.
This is to determine 3 from tonight.
Yeah. So this is determine the 3 from tonight. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Amber Fellows. Please raise your hand if you'd like to see Amber on the committee.
Amber was on earlier several times. She was part of the formation of the community benefits ordinance. Okay.
I got 10.
10.
Okay. That's 16.
10.
Yeah.
Hugh Kennedy. Okay, yeah, I'll call it. Next, we have Jen Eastridge. Jen Eastridge is a downtown business owner, entrepreneur, and owner, and a property owner.
Are you counting the hands online?
Yes, we are counting them. So Jen Eastridge. Next, we have Tyrone Coleman, sorry. Tyrone Goldman is a senior designer at ITC Holdings. He is not here. He was here, but he did leave. We have anyone on there? Yeah. We have, oh God, I'm going to say it wrong again. Evangeline Shape. Okay, good. Oh, sorry, Evangeline. She's a teacher who lives in Ward 3. Next, we have Mark Arthur. Mark Arthur is a social work student. Okay, who moved here, who just bought his house a year ago, I believe. Mary Potts, she is a chef and currently works for the Song Foundation. She is right here. Please raise your hand for Mary Potts if you'd like to see her. 6. Okay, thank you. Jack Lark, he is a barista. He is right here. He lives in Ward 1. We have 1. 2, 3. Grant Tillman is an engine calibration engineer. 0. Tyler Weston, been in the community 18 years. Ward 3, lives in the old Gilbert homestead. Roderick Johnson, in the community for 37 years. Currently works at Plum Market. And then we have Amy Schroeds. Okay.
I got 6 for Amy Schroeds.
6 for Amy Schroeds.
6 for Amy.
And then Mark.
Yeah, it looked like so.
Okay.
Schroeds and Schroeds.
Is there a Mark that we did not get who's on this? I don't think so. I think that was just an oversight. So we're going to tally all these up and it'll be posted online. I think we got it. We definitely have numbers. And so we're going to figure this out. So post it online and this will go to council at their March 15th meeting. March 15th to be approved. So that is where we're at for that.
There's still, applications are still open until Friday. So folks who are not at this meeting can also apply. And those will all be reviewed by council. 4 o'clock on Friday. So even if you weren't here and there are other people that want to be on the ad hoc committee. I see 2 hands in the audience. I'll go there and then there. Until Friday, this Friday at 4 p.m. The application window is open and that will be posted tomorrow morning online. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and then we had a hand over here.
No, so there was 14, I'm sorry.
3 people from this meeting have to be nominated on the ad hoc committee. Anyone in this either Zoom room or this physical space. What was that? Yeah, if you didn't get, so anybody who we just raised our hands for, 3 people will be selected from tonight. So either online or in person. You can still be selected even if you didn't come out on the top 3 from the tallies on Zoom and the hands raised here. So I mean, technically council has the final say on how big the committee can be. The last committee that we selected was 7. One desire that I have is making sure that we have representation from each ward in the city. So that could fluctuate numbers if we want to have some, equal representation there. And then also take into consideration people within 1,000 feet of the site. So that could fluctuate depending on city council. My desire is to have representation from all 3 wards.
Is there any other questions from anyone in the audience or anyone here in person? So the results for tonight will be posted online. Okay. Yes, George.
I would like to suggest that we split to figure out where you're going to handle this and figure that out as a separate process in CBO.
What was that?
The process of building this thing is incredibly logistically heavy.
Okay.
And if you don't think that out, it's going to be full of that.
Okay.
There's any number of ways that there's major problems we're going to have. So I would suggest that there's sort of 2, when we wrote the initial paper on this, we basically talked about community impact outside the site and community impact inside the site. And I think you really need to seriously take out the logistics because we know what happens on the blocks every day in terms of trucks coming in terms of other stuff. You're going to have to interact with that. You're going to have solid communication. Homeowners, there's other people who now, I mean, you've got some serious issues here in building this thing. And if you decide to do that, and not talk at the last minute.
Well, can I just answer? Thank you, George. I appreciate that. And I know that you're going to be involved and engaged in this process because you're generally involved and I appreciate that. The incentive requested in the community benefits ordinance is part of the process, but ultimately council has final say if this project even gets adopted and approved. So this is part of the process before it gets there, and then there's still a final adoption of the community benefits agreement offered. It may or may not get adopted by council. And then beyond that, whatever site plan that comes up for final approval, we'll have public meetings, and ultimately council will decide if we support that or not. So I think to both points, your issues can continue to be addressed during the community benefits process, as well as the next steps that council has to take for this development. Okay, and we'll take one more question and then we need to wrap it up for the night. Mary Ellen? Yes, everything will be posted online that was shared. I realize that technology-wise, the Freight House is not best equipped to share information. So everything will be posted online.
CBO.
And I'll also ask the city clerk to make up a news flash for that as well.
Yes.
Everything will be available in its own little corner online. Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if there were any other hands in the Zoom room, but we are going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody who attended in person or virtually. If you have neighbors and other interested community members that weren't available tonight, please encourage them to check out the communications that we posted online and they can still apply.